There are football moments where everybody in the room suddenly starts acting like an expert, while secretly having no idea what's happening. And honestly, that's just part of the culture of football because football fans are incredibly confident about things they only halfway understand. You'll hear, you'll hear people say stuff like terrible clock management or they should have gone for it or that's prevent defense. They're icing the kicker. Meanwhile, half the room is just nodding aggressively, hoping nobody asks any follow up questions. And if you've ever done that, congratulations! You're a completely normal football fan. Because today, we're talking about the 5 football moments everyone pretends to understand, but most people are actually bluffing their way through it. Yeah. So once you understand these moments, you can stop feeling lost and you'll start feeling you're in on the strategy. So this video is for the whole range of football fans, the beginners, the people who are just trying to survive football season, or people who've been watching for years. And quietly, they're thinking, wait, why are they doing that? And can I just say something? Football people love pretending things are obvious. They'll say super technical things like, well, clearly they were disguising cover 2 while manipulating the weak side coverage. I mean, excuse me, sir. We're just over here eating some nachos in the living room. Just relax, okay? So today, I'm going to translate these famous football moments into normal human language. Simple, fun, understandable, because I think confidence just comes from clarity. And this matters because football is incredibly social. It's so fun. I mean, there's watch parties and family gatherings, office conversations, group chats. Football becomes like the background culture for months out of the year. So when you don't understand what's happening, it's easy to feel completely disconnected from the excitement. But once you understand the emotional logic behind some of these moments, I feel like everything changes. Games become more dramatic and more strategic, way more fun because you stop watching and feeling like it's random chaos and you start seeing the momentum and the psychology and the risks they're weighing. And that's where truly football becomes really addictive. Okay. So I witnessed one of the funniest sports bar moments of my life during a playoff game. The game was really close, stressful close. And the entire bar suddenly became emotional support analysts. Everyone had opinions and nobody had qualifications. They never do. So late in the fourth quarter, one team decides to go for it on fourth down instead of punting. Immediately, this guy behind us stands up and yells, "You take the points there." And another guy from across the room goes, "No, analytics." And a third person who I genuinely think just wanted attention loudly says, "This is terrible clock management." And then his friend goes, "What what clock management?" And it was silent. The man freezes. He takes a sip of his beer and he goes "Well, the managing of the clock." "Oh, thanks, bud. Super helpful there." And honestly, that moment perfectly captures football culture. People repeat phrases they've heard commentators say without fully understanding what they actually mean, which is exactly why we're doing this video. So now maybe you're thinking this feels like a lot to remember, Amanda, but it's actually not because these moments all come down to one thing. It's risk versus reward. That's it. Football strategy is basically time, pressure, momentum, and a little bit of math, probability. So once you understand that framework, most confusing moments in football suddenly make some sense. Okay, number one, should they go for it on fourth down? This is probably the most debated football moment on earth. And here's the basic idea. A team gets 4 chances to gain 10 yards. If they fail on the fourth down, the other team gets the ball right there, right where they took their last chance and didn't make it. So traditionally, teams would punt the ball all the way down on the fourth down to avoid giving the defense, the opponent, that great field position. But modern football analytics started showing that teams are often way too conservative. They started doing some math, which means that like sometimes going for it statistically is smarter. And now football fans, like they just argue about this constantly. So you'll hear people saying like, take the points or trust your defense, be aggressive. And honestly, a lot of these decisions come down to what the score is, where their field position is, and really like, do they have confidence in their team? Is the momentum with them? And that's why coaches get criticized no matter what they choose. They could go either way, and people are always going to have something to say about it. Because if it works, the coach looks brilliant. But if it fails, the internet acts like the coach committed a federal crime or something. And by the way, if you've ever wanted to feel more confident on any weekend when you're watching football, I created a free guide so you don't have to memorize the playbook, and it's called Game Day Confident on Sundays. So it gives you 10 things of what's happening and things that you can say so you sound like you know what you're talking about. And we're going to explain them. So you will. You'll have some context. It's free and it's in the link below. So just go ahead and hit that link and it'll be yours. Okay. Okay. Number 2, clock management. Okay. Now this is the phrase people love to say, sometimes correctly, sometimes absolutely not. Clock management basically means controlling the time strategically near the end of the game, because like football is not just about scoring. I mean, obviously they want to score, but it's not always late in the game about scoring. It's about when you score and how much time remains and whether the other team, you want to give them another chance. Like if you score too quickly and you give the other team a chance, then that's not good if that's what you're trying to do strategically. So this is why teams sometimes run the ball instead of passing because it keeps the clock going, or they intentionally stay in bounds. Sometimes they use timeout strategically, and it feels like the game sort of slows down. But think of it like managing time during, like, think back, right? When you were having an exam. And you're not thinking about just the current question, you're thinking ahead. How much time do I have to think about this one question? How many more questions do I have? So you're also managing time. I know that was a stretch because it's been a while since we've been in school, but I was just trying to create a relatable analogy. Okay, so this is why fans lose their marbles when coaches mismanage timeouts late in the games, because those decisions can completely change the outcome. Number 3, prevent defense. You've probably heard someone say, prevent defense prevents you from winning. Football fans love that line. But prevent defense is when defense plays softer coverage late in the game to avoid giving up those huge plays too quickly. So the idea is to keep everything in front of you, like force those short gains and burn the clock, which sounds smart, right? Except fans hate it because it feels passive, especially when the opposing team suddenly marches down the field anyway. And this is why like, people will yell at televisions during final drives. I mean, like the team can actually hear you. I always love that. And they're like, come on, coach. You're like, bro, you are in Atlanta. The game's in LA. Calm down. Because emotionally, prevent defense feels like, why are you backing off now? But strategically, teams are trying to trade small gains for time. And that's the important part. Okay, number 4, icing the kicker. This one feels psychological because it is. And it's kind of mean, I feel like. I always feel bad for the kicker. But right before a crucial field goal attempt, the opposing coach calls a timeout. And the goal is to make the kicker overthink. That's called icing the kicker. And honestly, whether it actually works is still debated. I'd like to see the statistics on that one. But football is full of psychological warfare. Like pressure matters, rhythm matters, confidence matters, which is why these moments feel so dramatic. Okay, number 5, they have momentum. That's just it. They have momentum. This is the most emotional phrase in sports, in any sports, but especially in football. Momentum is basically feeling that like one team has energy and confidence, the crowd supports, and emotional control. Now, technically, momentum is hard to measure, but I think you can absolutely feel it during games. Like one turnover, one huge catch, one big defensive stop or a sack of the quarterback. Like suddenly the entire energy changes and fans become convinced. Like, oh, they're winning the game now. Because football is emotional theater as much as it is strategy. And that's why people love it. Okay, now let's make this useful in real life. So the next time one of these moments happens during a game, you'll actually understand the conversation. 4th down, they're weighing field position versus aggression. Clock issue, they're trying to control how much time the other team gets. Prevent defense, they're trying to avoid giving up a huge play. Late field goal, they're icing the kicker. Big emotional swing, that feels like a momentum shift. See how different that sounds? You're not memorizing random football trivia. You're understanding the logic underneath the emotion. And once you get that, football becomes way, way easier to follow. So, no, you are not the only person who's been confused during these football moments. Most people are quietly just pretending, at least a little bit, because football culture is full of phrases people just repeat confidently without fully understanding them. But now you understand 4th down decisions, clock management, prevent defense, icing the kicker, and momentum. You're a genius. Which means the next time everybody at the watch party starts debating the strategy, you'll actually know what's happening. And that confidence completely changes your experience because football becomes like more than just a bunch of noise. It becomes the tension you notice and the pressure, the psychology and decision making. And honestly, that's what makes the game so fun. So if you want more videos that make football feel easier to understand without all the intimidating sports jargon, make sure you subscribe to the channel because around here, we're not trying to become ESPN analysts, although that would be cool. We're just becoming game day confident. You're getting sharper. I feel it already.